because I find that's really disruptive. It moves everything around on the screens and you can't see everybody. So I'm going to try to let us all be in one view. If you have the Brady Bunch view or the Matrix view, I think we can maybe all look at each other that way. So here is, I hope I'm sending you the right one. That's the presentation that I want to share with you. Let me just find my notes because that's going to be really helpful to me. All right. Of course, once I get online, my notes hid themselves from me. That's not going to take. Okay, now we're ready. So this is actually what I'm showing you right now is a Google Slides document with one slide on it. And I'm going to use that as if it were a whiteboard to share some information with you. So I'm not going to be making a big presentation. You all have edit rights on this document, you may notice. And so you can change it any way you want, but of course that might make the presentation more difficult to follow. Has everyone been able to open the slide document with, it says at the top, Funconf 2020, and then the name of the session, taking your card game to a new level?
Yes, we have.
What questions might you have at this moment? All right. Well, when you have a question, I mean, go ahead and ask me. We're not so formal here. I think you can just say, hey, I have a question or something like that. And we'll go for it. I want to introduce myself. My name is Steve Hollier. I'm American, but I've lived in Zurich, Switzerland for many years, going on 20 years. So I'm almost Swiss here, hey. I work as an agile coach and trainer. I'm a speaker. I give keynote talks. I do all sorts of things. I've just put my email on this board in a sticker so that you, anytime you'd like to get a hold of me, please just send me an email. If you have questions about what we're doing today, tomorrow, please just ask by sending me an email. As I said, I'm a trainer, facilitator. I create games, I play games with people, and I'm an agile coach. The thing I love most in the world is open space, and I work with open space facilitation. I sometimes talk about how open space is a bit like a game, but that's not our subject today. But I just can't let a chance to mention open space go by, so I've mentioned it now. And finally, last little bit of information to set up here. Finally, my colleague Deborah Price and I set up a meetup for coaches who are all over the world, and we called it coachingcocktails.com. And we've been doing that for more than 5 years, trying to create distributed meetups that were as alive and rich and like vibrant as if you were in the same room. And suddenly this year, everybody found that they were working distributed. And so I was glad that we started doing this 5 years ago just because we wanted to see if we could do it. So we were glad we got a head start there. And if you're ever curious to join us, other thing that we found out is people are last year coming on a Zoom meetup that was a little bit different, was something brand new for people. People loved it. This year, about this time, everybody's going, oh, we're on Zoom all day. I don't know if we want to go on Zoom again. So we are doing less meetups right at this moment, but you're always welcome. And I'd love for you all to check out what we're doing at Coaching Cocktails. Let's just take a quick look at the plan. This is what I'd like to talk about today. We're going to play a game about crowd wisdom. I'm not going to promise this game is really fun, but I'm going to ask you. I don't want to knock it too much. And then after that, oops, I've done something I didn't mean to do. After that, oops, okay. All right, now watch me after going on about working online, and you watch me have all these issues. Let's see if we can get this. Here we go. Well, it's the same thing we did before. Okay, well, let's. Oh, man. Here's the new one. And all right. Okay, what I'm trying to put out there is a sticker that says game features for remote facilitation. I just want to let you know what we will be talking about, so it'll keep me honest, and it will also help you see where we are in the plan. Finally, we will look at the card game Fearless Journey and how it's possible to play it online. Let me just warn you about Fearless Journey, or just tell you about Fearless Journey. It's a complicated game that you play to help teams get unstuck from a situation where they're very stuck. And because it's 4 times when teams are very stuck and need to get unstuck, it's not something that you can play in 10 minutes. So it's a longer game, and it's intended to play with a full team of 4 to 9 people. We're gonna just kind of do a reduced version of that today, just so you know. And we're also I also have to say that the game is still in development, and it's coming to the end of the development. And every time I talk to somebody about it, I'm going to release it tomorrow, and then it doesn't quite happen. So I'm not going to promise to release it tomorrow, but you'll have a copy to play just as soon as possible. And you can always, if you need to play it before I release it, just get in touch with me and we'll make sure you have your own copy that you can do that. And finally, by the end of our time, I want to have a chance to share just a few hints with you about making your own card game. I'm not going to teach you how to make your own card game, but I'll share some hints with you that might help you if you're inspired to make your own. How's that sound? I'll just pause and ask what questions you might have now. I'm going to invite you to another slide document. And I'm just going to drop this into the chat. It's another slide document, and when you open that up, you will see a blank wall, I believe, a blank whiteboard. Does anybody have questions about what they're seeing yet? Give you a chance to play a little game with me. And this is crowd wisdom. I would like each of you who are in this slide document called the answer wall to move your cursor down to the bottom and highlight a sticky note. When your cursor makes a cross, you can just pull that sticky note right up onto the board. And then I would pull it up to the board first and then write your answer. And the question I'm asking is, let's just make a list of games. And I would like to know the name of the game, games that you like to play with teams. Let's say that. Games that you like to play with teams in your agile work, the name of the game and the type of the game. So the type of the game it might be a card game, a board game, a role-playing game, a drawing game. I think you get the gist. So let's just, if you could share those. And I see people are still writing, but when you're ready, popcorn style, I would love if you could share what you've written down. So just when you're ready, if you just talk out loud, what games have you shared here on this board with us?
Yeah, I'll start. I shared the game here, Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes. So it's a stream game, pretty fun. People have to communicate with the manual to defuse a bomb, and there are different modules, different strengths. So I've been playing this game online too, and it's fun. We generally start for play like 15, 20 minutes. We generally end up playing for like 2-3 hours with the teams. Not very productive, but it's fun.
Was it Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes?
Yeah, Keep Talking, Nobody Explodes.
Okay, I have to look that up. What else?
Hey, Steve, I mentioned one from Mindsets.
Yeah.
That's a drawing game. So
okay.
It's like I can draw. So we encourage people to just scribble out if they think that they can't draw, if they say they can't draw, and then we ask them to add a few features like eyes and a tail, and beak, and then turn it into a drawing that people can recognize.
That sounds cool. Let's hear two more.
In the similar category, of drawing games, Drawful or Drawful 2 from Jackbox Games. You are drawing, you cannot recognize what you are doing. Everybody is in the same category, and it's good fun and doesn't take too long.
Okay, yeah, I've played that. I enjoy that. One more. Let's hear one more.
Hi, I wrote one which is called Chinese Whispers. This is more sort of, kind of highlighting the how things get lost in translation. You basically ask folks to stand across in a line, and you enact something to one person and ask them to enact to the other person, and then they basically go all the way up to the end of the line, and then you see the difference between what was actually enacted at the start and what was finally communicated at the end, and kind of highlighted to them that things get just the number of people that communicate a thing just complicates and changes the entire message completely depending on how many number of people are there. So that's one. When I do that sometimes with some of the newer coaching sessions or something like that you work in, so that you highlight the importance of communication and making things simpler.
Yeah. Are you able to play that on online?
Not yet, no. So that is a challenge. But that I've tried to do that in a very complicated manner via doing some sort of a drawing game. But it gets really complicated when trying to do that with drawing with multiple people trying to access the same thing. So,
I bet it does. So we call that game in the US, we call it that game Telephone. So that way we don't have to mention other countries who might be surprised that what we're saying. So we call that Telephone. And some colleagues of mine named Sam and Karen have a game that they call Skype for doing this online. Antoinette, do you know anything I don't know how I can't remember how it's played. I just know that they did it. So you might be able to look that up and see how they are doing it. They're doing it online. The rules are a little bit different, but they've got that. So I think if you Google Sam and Karen Skype game agile, I'm guessing that'll come up.
sure.
So
Steve,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt in between. I have added a document link here on the same board. That board is kind of a list of so many lockdown games, online games that you can play with the teams that my team started experimenting with. And it has like more than like 50, 60 games that you can play.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that'll be good. That's great to know. And I'm gonna just copy that also to the other board because it'll make it easier for me to find it. As you look at these games that you've listed, just take a look for yourself and see which of these games might be more difficult to play online. I was going to ask us to kind of sort those out, but in the interest of time, I'll just ask you to take a look at the board and just think for yourself what might be easier to play online and what might be harder, like the game of telephone.
Coin game, probably.
What was that? Was that for us?
Coin game. Coin game.
Yes. Is that any easier to play online, or is it possible to play online?
No, it's difficult to play, right?
I think so. I do know some people that have created versions to play online.
There is an online version of it. Yeah.
Yeah, Miro
created one as well. The hardest thing to do is the dexterity. So I think the other ones, like my favorite game to play with teams is a folding game, paper folding game, where there's dexterity involved. And those, like with a coin game, to me, those are the hardest things to do online. How do you do things that where in real life there's actually physical skills required, physical dexterity. Those to me are the hardest ones to port online.
They are. In the interest of time, I'm going to move forward. I love having these conversations. So in the open, what are we calling it? The open table later today, maybe we can have some of these conversations. I thought about different features of gaming that is really helpful for remote facilitation. And if you want to look back at the board where we were on, where I was putting the presentation type information, I just copied those board. Does everybody know where we are? Can we help anybody find the way?
I might need another link.
Let me just send that to be sure. So this is the board we had before, and I'm going to put it in there again. That's where I am now. As a hint, these Google Slide docs are a bit heavy, and they take some computer processing power. So when I'm suggesting to open up a new document, I'd invite you to open it up in another browser or tab so that you can go back and forth without having to open many windows of all the same thing. Just as a hint, because I've crashed my computer, so that's why I'm saying it. Okay, some features of gaming that I think is very useful for remote facilitation. Yilmaz mentioned a couple of these in the last hour, but one thing that games offer is a defined playing field. It's very rare that you play a game just out and you say this game applies everywhere. You know, maybe the Pokemon collect the Pokemon game you play everywhere, but most games have a defined playing field. So you play, you know where you're playing and you know where you're not playing. Most games offer some measure of safety because of course we don't want to play games where we really damage ourselves. Most games define some boundaries, which is related to having a playing field. You play within these boundaries and not outside those boundaries. And hopefully games are fun in some way. When we're talking about doing remote facilitation with distributed teams, I think that is a amazing thing about games. I've noticed when you jump into a remote call and you're presented with a mural board or a slide document and the whole world's in front of you and you're like, where am I? What do I do? It becomes a little bit confusing. But if I put a game in front of you and I say, here's the game, you're going to work in these boundaries. You're going to, here are the rules to play. I believe that it allows a team to facilitate themselves a little better because you know what the boundaries are, you know what the rules are, you have the tools of the game. So I believe that helps with remote facilitation. All right, let's look at this card game called Fearless Journey. I'm going to chat you one more link. And oops, I gotta be able to do it here. It's play.coachingcocktails.com, and this is important, :8000. So see if you can open that up. I've typed something wrong. Excuse me, there's no, I'm sent you the wrong link. There's no S in HTTP in this case. I'm gonna send it one more time. There you go, it's the last link I sent you. When I release this, you will be able to make the components for yourself, so you don't necessarily have to go to my site to play it. What you will find here is a board. Uh-oh. Is this the demo effect where things don't quite work the way they're supposed to? Okay, I'm seeing disconnected trying to reconnect. Count to 10 and reload the page. Is everybody else seeing that same thing that I'm seeing? Or do you see like a deck of cards?
We see a deck of cards.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, wait, we're back. I've got the deck of cards too. So if you don't have the deck of cards, I think, no, some of you do. If you don't have a deck of cards, it's going to appear very soon. And what you're seeing here is a online platform that's free. It's a free online platform called Playing Cards IO. And what I've created is a deck of cards that are equivalent to the actual physical deck that I'm now holding in my hands. And I did this without too much effort because the tool supports it. And let's see, what else I want to say. This game, now one thing to note about games is that the text on the cards itself is copyrighted by the authors of the cards. So to move a game online, I wouldn't want to do that unless I had the permission from the author, unless I wrote it myself or I had the permission from the authors of these cards. And in this case, I knew how to find the authors of the cards and get their permission. So they've given their permission, but the cards themselves are copyright, which means I would ask you not to make copies of the cards to put into your own game, which probably goes without saying. Let me tell you a little bit about this card game. The game is called Fearless Journey, and it is related to a book called Fearless Change. The book Fearless Change was written by Linda Rising and Mary Lynn Mans, and they were working with patterns. And the idea behind this book is when you find yourself in a situation and you don't know what to do, you can find a pattern that matches your situation, and that pattern might help you move forward from the place where you are. The book itself is wonderful, and the patterns take a couple pages to describe. So we can't put the whole pattern on the back of one card, but some people worked out how to get the best summary of the pattern so that you can fit kind of a summary of the pattern on the card. Now, if you're a developer, you might know the famous Gang of 4 pattern books where you find things like the singleton pattern to help you program things. And it's the same idea, but it's not for computers, it's for people. Let's see, what can we do? Because we don't have a lot of time remaining. I'm going to ask, would someone, I'm going to invite somebody, this is at your option, so please don't share anything that you're uncomfortable sharing. I'm going to ask you, is somebody struggling with a kind of a team type problem where the team is stuck and it's a systemic issue? So if the problem is my computer's broke, that's not the kind of problem that we would want to work on. If the problem is my company won't buy anybody new computers and all the computers keep breaking, that would be a systemic problem. So does anyone want to quickly, briefly share a systemic issue that you're encountering with a team?
I can share that.
Okay, yeah,
So,
thanks.
So the problem that my teams are facing is to balance between the support work versus the feature work in terms of how much is the time they need to spend on support and how much time they can spend on feature. There is always a push to move towards feature, but at the same time, we want the customers to be happy, and we have to jump on the support, which technically impacts the feature work, but then the feature work is impacted. We rush it to release it, and then again, there is a quality problem, and then again, there is a more support problem. So they are stuck in that pretty good loop of problem. So which is, I think it's a systematic problem in that.
I think it is too. Thank you for sharing that. And if I can, so I put I made notes, but then I sent the notes to Deepti rather than to everybody. So that's only going to help Deepti. Just one second. Now I'm going to send it to everybody. I tried to summarize what I heard you saying, and I added the words technical debt because it sounds to me like you're with all of this, you're talking about having a lot of technical debt to pay down. Now, what I would invite everybody to do is, as you're looking at the playing cards, if you put your cursor on a playing card, you can take that card and drag it down to the bottom of your screen. And when you drag a card to the bottom of the screen, it's going to show up in your screen, but it's going to disappear from everybody else. So I invite as many of you who want to try this to pull a card down so you have some cards. And if you take the card that you have in your hand, from the bottom of the screen, if you take it and you drag it back up, but hold on to it, don't let it go. If you've let it go, you might want to just pull that card back down into your hand and then try it again. That'll let you read what's on the card. And so I'd invite you to read what's on the card and see if you think you have a card that might help Kamal with the issue where his team is stuck. And if you think you've got a card that would help Kamal, I would invite you to read it out loud to us. Anyone? It does take a while to read these cards. I'm going to pull a card here and let me see if I can offer it to Kamal to the right time. Consider the timing when you schedule events or when you ask others for help. When people face deadlines and have too much to do, they tend to focus on things that move them towards completion, necessary tasks, and making the deadlines. So be aware of these times when people are likely to be the busiest and schedule events and requests for help outside those times. Okay, well, I can offer that to you, Kamal, as a potential solution for your problem. It's kind of a really obvious one because what you're telling me is everybody's always busy and you don't have time. So I could offer you this solution and you might tell me, yeah, well, that's not really helpful because I kind of already know that I'm still having a problem. So I'm like, okay. So, but when you hear that, when I read to you about the right time, how much do you think that helps you? You can be honest and say not at all if you want.
Yeah, it's a little bit. I think it's in the direction, but not there yet, like kind of
It's
a
not
yes.
there yet. Yeah, I agree with you. It's a little bit, probably not a long way, but it's not there.
Yeah.
So we might, when we're playing a game with these cards, we might be able to draw some more cards that would help you with the situation you're having. Probably none of the cards are going to be a direct fit. So you'll be thinking about, well, what does that mean in my context? How am I going to interpret that? Okay, that's part one with the cards. One other thing that I want to show you, and I'm just aware of the time, how fast it's moving. The other fun part of this game, so just pulling cards out of a deck and reading them may not be the funnest thing that there is to do. So the fun part, another part of the game, which is fun, is the mapping. And if this all works, I have just switched what you see on your display to the map. What you see with the map is a green field that represents the felt on a game table, the green felt on a game table. And you see a start and a finish. So when we're playing this game for real, what we would take Kamal's problem that he shared with us, and we put that at the finish. And we'd also ask Kamal because of time, I won't ask it today, but it would say, describe the current situation, and we put that at the start. Now your goal is to create a path from the start to the finish. If you've played a game like Carcassonne works that way. So a way to do that, I'm just going to play through it because of time, is somebody draws a game tile and places it. And then the next person draws a game tile and places it. And see, what we're doing is we're building a road, and our goal is to get to the finish. So we're going to want to keep moving towards the finish. And okay, now we've got a problem, because I got a big rock and the rock is blocking the way. That's just like your team that's stuck and doesn't know what to do. You've got a rock in the way. And so now you have a choice. You could build the path from you could go a different direction. But if you want to solve the problem, you're going to have to figure out a way to remove the rock. So with the rest of the game, which I'm not able to show you because of the time, what you would do is switch back over to the cards. You'd identify that rock, and then you'd use your cards in the game to remove the rock. Once you remove the rock, you keep building. So that's what I have time to show you today. And I apologize that I would love to show you more. So I'm gonna tell you in a minute, how you can see more, but I would love to show you more. It's just a matter of time that I wasn't able to show it now. I will ask if we have one or two questions that I can answer before we wrap this up.
How you debrief on this kind of game? Like once you play this game, you definitely have identified a path from start to finish. Now you want to put that into action, or like how you want to debrief it?
There's several ways to do this, and sometimes when I've given this game to somebody else, they've come up with a new way that I go, that's brilliant. And so somebody else came up with this, and I love it. What they did, well, I was actually in the team, and so I gave the game to them so that they could play it because my team was stuck and I needed to play it with them as well. And what they did is, as we found cards that helped unstick the problem, we wrote down the problem and then on a piece of paper, and then we took tape and taped the card next to it. So when we were through playing the game, we had all of our issues and all the potential solutions. And then we were able to review it, and we did an action planning. So like, okay, we asked each member of the team, given this, what's the next thing? What will you do in the next 2 weeks to move forward? And then suddenly the team was like, there's no way we can move forward. Now we had all kinds of options. So we still didn't have the solution in front of us, but we weren't stuck saying there's no options because we had a whole list of them. So that's one way to debrief it. So the debriefing itself is outside of the game, but sometimes you can just ask, what have you discovered, or how does it feel now? Or, before you felt really stuck, where are you now? These kind of debriefs. And you mentioned an important thing. It's when playing a game, most people know, it's really important to debrief the game, or it's just a game. Without the debrief, you don't get the learning. The problem is, even people who've played games for a long time forget to do the debriefing, and then you lose the learning as well. So I thank you for asking that question. Based on the time, I would like to now I would like to share my screen with you. Let me make sure I share the right screen. And what you're seeing here on the shared screen is my copy of the game table. I see some of you are moving around on the table, so that's natural. When I click on the toolbox, I go to the configuration area, and that allows me to lay out the game board that you're looking at. Oops. Shoot. And it allows me to do things like create a custom card deck. Well, we don't want to do that actually. We can look at the card deck that's there, edit the deck, and you can see how the cards are constructed. What that means.
We don't see much at the moment. We just see like a sliver of screen.
Really? Oh.
It was there and then it's gone.
Zoom is okay because I moved the window, so that's my fault.
Okay.
Let me try to share it again. What you're able to do is you can build up your table. You can edit your card deck. When you edit your card deck, you can specify what's on the cards. In this case, each of the patterns is an image, which I prepared in advance and uploaded. You're also able to create cards by just typing text. One other thing that I will mention is if you go to playingcards.io, this is a bit simpler to do, and you scroll down to custom room. That's what you want to do, is create a custom room and then start the game. And it's going to give you a standard deck of cards. But then you can click on your toolbox and start changing all those cards to be the cards that you want for your game. So if you're using cards with the remote facilitation and you'd like an online tool, I can really recommend playingcards.io. All right, I'm going to stop sharing. Let's wrap this up really quick. I'm going back to, there's a lot more things that I could show you, and unfortunately with the time, I can't show it to you. Let's just go back to the presentation and I'll just copy some links in there for you. Where's my, and I will just do this very quickly. I apologize, I'm missing the thing, the document that I need. Here we go. I'm just going to copy several items right into your presentation document here. And give you a chance to look that over. What I'm showing you here is there's a link to a blog post by a gentleman from Finland called Antti Kirjavainen. And the blog post is about creating your own game. So if you're inspired to create a card game, I would recommend reading that blog post. It's a little bit complicated, but it's also very helpful. You can read it multiple times. We had, with creating this game that you're seeing, we had a presentation from Antti before we created it, so which is the same as a blog post. If you're creating a card game, I would recommend just reading the Wikipedia entry on card games. It'll give you a lot of hints. This playingcards.io is a tool we were using. If you want more information, you can go to my website, which is here, coachingcocktails.com, Fearless Journey, and that's where you'll find more information, especially a place to sign up. I'm not really trying to collect names for my newsletter, but if you sign up there, as soon as it's ready, I will be sending you all the information about the card game. So that's what I have to say. I'm sorry for rushing through it. That's the time we have. Any last words that I can say for you? Any last questions?
Yeah, what could be the price for that?
So the game itself, it also is a historical thing, the way this game was developed. The game itself is Creative Commons licensed, and you'll be able to play it for free. If you'd like to learn how to facilitate it, of course, I will let you pay me for a class on how to facilitate it. And if you'd like me or another experienced facilitator to facilitate it with your team, obviously we can arrange that. But to play the game, to take the game artifacts and play it. That there's no charge for that. It's under a
Okay.
Creative Commons
Okay.
license.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions? Well, I know Nikita has been very good about not making me say, she said we're going to be really strict on the time box, and she's been a little relaxed with me. So I appreciate that, Nikita. And I think we need to stop.
Yes, yes. So thanks a lot, Steve. It was a great session. So we learned a lot, and there were a lot of takeaways everyone took from this. I would just like to let you know we have a 5-minute break. We'll come back for Valerie's session after the break. And all these sessions are being recorded, so we'll be uploading them on our YouTube channel. So feel free to refer to them later on as well.
And I'll be hanging out for the open table tonight. So grab, if I can answer some questions for you, then just grab me somehow. Or email me. I'm always happy to answer emails and chat with people.
Great. Thank you so much, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you all.
Yes. See you all in 5 minutes for Valerie's session.